What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Manage by Mom podcast. I'm so excited for today's guest. Some of you may know her because you know her from selling the top houses in real estate in Washington, D.C., and being at all the hottest events on the gram, honey. But we're talking today with Miss Malika Jackson. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed to be here. Honored to be on your platform.
Thank you. I am so honored to have you as well. One thing that most people may or may not know about you is that you
Mhm.
are also a momager.
I am.
And I'm excited to talk to you because your sons are grown up now and you managed their careers since they were kids and they
Yes.
were able to flip it into actual professions as adults. So I think you have some tea that we all need to learn.
I'm sure I do. I'm sure I
So
do.
it's interesting. So your two sons, you have two sons who were DJs and you managed their career since they were children, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So tell us their names and tell us how their journey started.
Okay, sure. So, names. You know how DJs are. They
Their
always got
DJ
two.
names.
Yes. So their names are Malik and Ali, which both in some way are named after me, of course, and they have very powerful names. That was big for me. But their DJ names are DJ Megadome and Squirrel. Like he uses Squirrel sometime. I mean, he uses DJ Squirrel most of the time, but most of the time it's Squirrel. So yeah, DJ Megadome and DJ Squirrel. So they are now, as of next month, they will be 25 and 30 years old, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
But they've been performing
You look
since.
good, girl.
Girl, thank you, girl. I appreciate that. So they've been
Yes.
performing. Well, really, they've been performing most of their lives in different ways, a lot African drum and things like that. But as DJs, they started around 10 and 15 years old, and it just
Mhm.
started from a random party. They were always popular kids, and they had this big. I think it was a New Year's party or a Christmas party, and it was just the party was crazy, respectfully, but all the schools were there. Some of the middle schools were there. Like it was wild. It was a really really good party, and so I was like, you should DJ. Talking to my oldest son, and he was like, I'll think about it. So anyway, they started DJing like all the kitty cabarets, the kitty fashion shows, school events, kid little, all these birthday parties, all kind of young, people's parties, and they got really popular. And so I was like, wow, well, maybe I should step in because as a business owner myself, I, do real estate consulting for the entertainment community. I wanted to make sure that and I was raised by entrepreneurs myself, my mom and my dad. So I told them, if you're going to do it, like you got to do it right. This is a business. Like if you're going to do this, you got to run it as a business. So that was my main thing with stepping in. I wasn't there to control how they did things or control their musical selections or their artistry or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that they were running it as a business and that they were, protected and that they treated the clients, right. That was my biggest thing. And then once they got old enough, they took it and ran with it, and they're doing well.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Hmm.
So for anyone who doesn't know already, where were you raised? Like where were they raised? Like where were you guys doing kitty cabarets and things like that?
Oh, sure. Well, let's see, I'm third generation second generation Washingtonian, and my sons are third generation, really fourth generation Washingtonians. My grandparents came here when they were like really young, 20 or 21. And so I was raised in Northwest, and with the boys, I pretty much raised them between Northwest and like upper Northeast. That's where we kind of were. And so by the time they were at Coolidge High School, it was crazy. They were DJing all the schools over there. They DJed at Roots and what's the other one? Richard Wright Literary Arts School. They were doing all the schools up there, and yeah, mostly in DC. And then it started spilling out. Of course, they were going into Maryland and to Virginia. And then once they went away to college, it was interesting because that's where I saw like a change because they went away to school and so did their friends and all the people who would come to the parties. And once they came back from college, I was like, whoa, these kids, they've been exposed to something. Because I would always have security, and that was the first time they were getting creative. I was seeing Jello shots and this and that. I was like, oh no, 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 no. So,
Oh
but
my
what that
God.
also, yeah, they learned how to party a little harder because the beautiful
So were
thing was
they
that
throwing these parties at your house?
yes, and let me
Oh,
explain. People are always like you were contributing to them, doing this and that, but they were at my house for a reason initially. because I wanted to make sure if you're going to party, you're going to party a certain way. You're going to do it with respect. And they knew they were not to play music that had crazy words in it, and they were not to do anything that was disrespectful to women. And because I always had security, we're from a very cultural community. We got a lot of Babas. I made sure all the Babas were there.
Hmm. Right,
A lot of the
right.
community knew that they could bring the kids to my house, and it was going to be a certain standard set where they could have fun in a certain way, in a certain environment. That was my thing. But it did
Hmm.
get to the point where, like, once we had a couple parties with like 150 some kids in the basement, I was like, oh my God. Like, I had a little row house on South Dakota Avenue. It wasn't that big of a place. So once it got bigger and bigger, that's when they started DJing. Like I was saying, when they went away to school, they also started sending like their DJ crew because they got big. So they started having a crew, and they were at different colleges up and down the East Coast. And they started. Basement Brothers Entertainment just got big. It started going up and down the East Coast, and then one of my sons performed in West Africa. Like, they've just taken it and ran with it, and they just opened up a new studio on Mount Rainier. So they've been doing really
Right.
good. But yeah, to answer your question, it was we're all like kind of uptown DC.
Okay. So, when you were talking
Yeah.
about like the house parties, like that brings back some great memories for me. Because when I was in middle school, I have
Yes.
a friend, shout out to DJ Juan Harris, Lawan, who was now he's a DJ. He's on tour with Big Frida.
Mm.
But when we
Oh,
were in middle
nice.
school, he was DJing his house
Oh,
parties and DJing our middle
yes.
school dances, and his
Yes.
dad was a DJ, his brothers was a DJ. But I went
Mm.
on a tangent. But my point here is I miss
Okay.
house parties like that. Like that used to
I
be lit.
know. I'm telling you, it was those good old fashioned house parties like what we had,
Yeah.
back in the day. And the kids, I mean, they would have so much fun. I would cook so much. I was cooking it by myself. I would be exhausted. Like, I was cooking all this food. So we're talking about from the momager standpoint. I was cooking all this
Right.
food. I know other momagers can understand. I'll be honest. Now, this was 12 years ago, so I can say this now. I would spend my rent money sometimes on those kids'
Mm,
parties. And I'm just being
mm,
honest. And it was because I knew they had something. You know what I mean? I wasn't
right.
just trying to be frivolous, but I knew they had something. And I was thinking, oh, this is just how I was thinking when I was in momager mode. I was thinking, 10 years from now, would I remember that I paid my rent late, or would I remember that I let my sons down? You know what I mean? I was looking at it from that
Right.
perspective.
Exactly.
And I went with my sons. I was not financially irresponsible. I am a licensed agent with good credit and a little change in the bank. I'm just saying, at that time when I was in full momager mode, when I was
Don't get
I
it
was a
twisted.
I was a different girl. I was a mom, a teenage mom, young mom, single mom of two boys. So you can understand the energy. And they were football players.
Right.
So it was either
Right.
football players at my house or the DJ crew at my house. So I had a big stick.
Right.
They knew not to play with me. You know what I mean? As a mom, they knew I was that mom. They know, don't come to Miss Malika or Mama Malika, whatever they call me. Don't come to my house with no cussing. Don't come here disrespecting women. Don't sit on the porch smoking no weed. But you can come here and have fun.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You
right.
can come here and have fun. You got a problem at home. I'm not. This ain't the trap house for everybody to come. But if you got a serious issue, call me. You know what I mean? Like, they knew that they
Yeah.
could come to me. Just
You were like
speaking
the
in
cool
momager mode.
mom, the cool
Yeah,
house,
I
the
was the
cool
cool
mom.
mom, but I wasn't the sit down smoke a J with you, drink with you mom. Never that.
Not
I
that
wasn't
cool.
that.
Not that cool.
No, not that cool. Because I knew I had to maintain a
Right.
level of respect, if I was going to be in the position I was, kind of as running the show.
Right.
But they knew that it was a safe space, that they could come talk to me or whatever. But yeah, I did some wild things to throw those parties just to get them off the ground. Yeah.
Right. And let's talk about that because there's so many sacrifices that momagers make for
Yes.
their talented kids, whether they know it or not. Were they aware of the sacrifices you were making, like, or at least they
Hmm.
may be now, but at that moment, were you walking them through the processes?
Yes and no. I think they could tell that it might have been a struggle on me, but I was never that mom to say, I spend my rent money on this, this, that. It was always,
Mm,
Mama gonna make it happen. Mom's gonna make it
right.
happen. And I just had to deal with a late fee or whatever, I had to deal with
Hmm.
later on. So back then, not really, but now, absolutely. Because they're grown
Right.
now and they'll say stuff like, Dad, Mom, you were only 29 and you were doing this to two kids and throwing this and spending this and that. Now they get it.
Right.
Because they're like, you were
Right.
my age and juggling all this. But back then, I don't think they knew. And honestly, I didn't want that stress on them. Like, in their mind,
Right.
everything was okay, you know?
Yeah.
So, But
For
yeah.
real, understand that. But then, like, when you talk about equipment, because my ex-husband was a DJ, so I understand
Okay.
how expensive it is, how there's
Hmm.
always upgrades and new things, and having all that speakers laying around your living room. You're like, y'all need a
Right.
storage unit for this stuff. So, how, how about that part? Like, were you buying equipment and keeping up with the Joneses of technology for them?
Ooh, that that's such a great question. No one has ever asked me that, and that is another whole thing in and of itself. Have to, like they say, spend money to make money. And where was I going to get
Yeah.
money for equipment? You know, for these boys. So
Hmm.
we again, I found a way. I found a place that used to rent equipment, and it
Hmm.
honestly it made no sense financially because you started renting the same piece over and over again. But
Hmm.
if all I
Hmm.
had was $60 and it I could get a 2 hour rental out of that, I might not had enough to buy you a whole system, but I could get a rental for a party, you
Get
know.
that. Yeah.
So I would rent them stuff, and honestly, I was going on Craigslist. I would anywhere where I could find like little things that would contribute to their business. I just did it the other day, honestly. I mean, now I can just flat out pay for stuff, but I was on Facebook Marketplace and I saw this
Hmm.
big
Hmm.
poster of this like jazz thing with all these musical instruments on it and all this, and I was like, oh, I should get them that. But yeah, I was renting stuff until I could afford to buy stuff, and then eventually my sons would be like, they started making more money, you know, DJing, and they would buy one piece here and one piece there, and it was a struggle, but yeah, it was we had to rent stuff at one point. It was that serious.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a business the other way around because once you have enough equipment, you can start renting it out to other people.
Exactly. And that's exactly what they're doing now with their new studio. It's called Level B
Hmm.
Studios in Mount Rainier. And now they're to the
Oh,
point where they can,
nice.
yeah, they can provide that, you know, space for other people, which is so beautiful to see this full circle, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because a lot of us on the momager journey, our kids are still children, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
love like to hear the perspective where you can kind of see the fruits of your labor or
Yes.
get
Yes.
your flowers now
Mm-hmm. I can
from
proudly
them
say,
and see that they're making a whole career out of the where you started them. So
yes.
that is so cool.
I mean, it is so cool. I'm at a stage now where I'm seeing a lot of the results of everything I did, like all the, and even the little mistakes you make as parents, you see the
Yeah.
results, you know. But I did
Mhm.
so much. I'm not here to brag or whatever, but you're a momager, you're other momagers that listen, y'all know we go hard and we go all out for these children, you know.
We do.
And I did my part, and I can just proudly say I did my part. And to see them now, and they have this new studio, and it's, you know, they're hosting parties and people are coming to record, and you know, all that stuff, it made it worth it because see, back then they thought I was strict. And I know some other
Mm.
parents thought I was strict. And I was strict on certain things, but I knew that it was going to help them be successful. Just like, to give you an example, I didn't allow them to watch TV during the week at all. There was no
Mm.
TV. So in my house, like during school nights, there's no TV. Saturday, so they couldn't do TV Monday night to like Sunday afternoon because Sunday is a school night, right? So
Hmm.
Friday
Hmm.
when you get out of
Hmm.
school, turn on all the TV you want. All day Saturday, all the TV you want. All day, most of Sunday, all the TV you want. But I was
Hmm.
thinking, I refuse to come home from work and school and just turn on this electronic box and just plop my children in front of an electronic box for four,
Right.
five, six
Right.
hours, 7 days a week. I'm not doing that. It first of all, it gives them too much energy and they get hyperactive, and a lot of people are hyperactive because they have too much screen time. It didn't allow them to
Right.
create or anything. And so when you remove that, at first they would get bored and stuff, but then they would start to create, and they would just
Right.
create and create. They would go outside, they would get dirty, they would ride bikes,
Right.
they would make
Right.
things. And then you come home one day after doing that for a while and they're making music, and then they're making albums. And so you know, it was those type of sacrifices, and people are like, why don't you let them kids watch TV? No, we have homework, we have a full life, we have family time together. They have to have time to relax and or whatever. So, you know, it was just
Right.
things that I did back then that I see the fruits of it now, and I can just sit back and say, wow, it actually worked, you know.
Right. It worked
All that
out.
craziness, it
Pat yourself
actually
on the
worked.
back.
Hmm. We say?
I said pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, a little bit, you know. It's
Yeah.
just the beginning. I mean, they're only 25 and 30. It's been 15 years, so it seems like a long time, but they're still so young. So we have like a whole career,
Correct.
and I'll be honest with you, this is another thing, and maybe some momagers older than me can give me advice. We went through a sticky spot where it was like, okay, mom, we don't need you anymore. And that happens with momagers when they got to
Right.
maybe, I would say when the youngest one was maybe 17, and the oldest one might have been like 23 or something. They got to this point where I could tell that it was starting to be like almost annoying to, not, I don't want to say annoying, but
Mhm.
almost like, Mom, we good, you know, that kind of thing. And so that kind of hurt my feelings because I was used to, doing something. But every
Right.
momager does get to the point, well, not everyone, but quite frequently, a momager might get to the point where they're like, okay, I'm good now, Mom. So we went through that stage where they wanted to just,
Mhm.
show their independence. They didn't need mommy anymore. They didn't need me for contracts. They didn't need me to go to get them in the club anymore. All that crazy stuff
Right.
I used to do. And they were like, we're good and we're on our own. So we went through that stage. Now that they're grown men, just like I'm sure me and you did, because I did it too, when I was like, I need my mama. Once I got grown,
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
saying,
They come
"Dad,"
back around.
they come back around, and I just had to learn to let
Mhm.
go and give them that time. But now they're starting to come back around, like, Dad, Mom, we could have used you for this, we could have used you for that. So, and I mean,
Mhm.
and this is in real time. We're just now getting to that stage where I'm starting to come back around a
Mhm.
little bit more to do some things that, maybe they say, okay, you could step in here or there. So it's such an interesting journey.
Mhm.
It really
Yeah,
is.
I agree. I agree. And I have had some momagers on here who manage their children's careers. And I said to them, what are you going to do when they want to hire someone else? And
Mm.
every single one of them are like, can we start? Can that happen today? Can they hire someone today? And I'm laughing. And it's funny because you think that it's going to be so easy to let go. But I'm pretty
Mm-mm.
sure when someone else comes and they have a different vision than you or a different way of doing things than you do,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna sting a little bit, and you've been doing it for so long. It's like you're a part of it. You're sharing something with your child. You know
Mm-hmm.
that it's hard to let that go.
Very, very, because
But
we
so
both know most of the time no one is going to look out for you like your mama, and mamas know that. And it just
exactly,
takes it takes a bit because we would never cheat these kids. We would never like all this crazy stuff that happens when they go work with certain people, and we know that it takes a very
exactly,
special soul to step into where we were. So it's a hard
yeah,
separation, but a necessary one because we raise them to fly. We don't raise them to stay home and
exactly.
just be up under us all the time. And I mean, I know people, and we all know celebrities that their moms have been managing, yeah, with their moms have been managing them their whole life. But I think it's a healthy balance. It's a
Yeah,
healthy
it
balance. It
definitely
should
is.
be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It how do you balance it, or how did you balance it?
Honestly, uh, I was gonna say I didn't, and that may be true because I put it first. I just felt like these kids have something, and they're so talented, and people from all over are asking them. I mean, their schedules will be so booked weekend after weekend after weekend, and they were playing at all the big clubs. They played at Six Flags. They played at so many places. So I don't know if there was balance at that point. We were just on go. Like, and I'm sure a lot of other
Right.
managers, what do you call it, the auditions, and you just go, go, go. We were just on go at that
Hmm.
time. And if I wasn't doing something for the
Yeah.
boys, then I was working. So yeah,
Correct.
I don't know how much
So speaking
balance
of
there
that,
was. Hmm.
and that's honest. And sometimes you just doing what you have to do, because a lot of us momagers, we didn't go to school to be a manager. Like,
Hmm.
you just start doing what needs to be done because you saw
Hmm.
something shining within your child that you wanted to like push forward. And like my son, for example, he not only to see it shine, but he'll say like, I mean, what's up with some more acting? Like, I haven't been acting in a while. Like he'll push me to
Mm.
get him going. So yeah.
Okay, I know that's right.
But I want to
That's
ask you though, because
beautiful.
like with DJing, I know like sometimes you will have to go into environments where children are not usually welcome. How did you handle that? And you mentioned how they couldn't have music with cursing. And how do you like what did you do? I'm sure when you walked away, they was like, play with the other track. And so how did you handle like them being so young in such an adult dominated industry?
Sure. Well, I tried to be pretty strict. The older one, I would let him do certain things, and the younger one, I would let him do certain things. So it's been
Okay.
times when we arrived to places and left because I was like, oh no, this is
Mm,
not the move. This is not what they said it was going to be. But with the older
right.
one, once he got about 16 or 17, yeah, I was sneaking him in the clubs. I was. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I was sneaking him in the clubs. And the other thing about it is he doesn't look his age at all. He doesn't look like me. I'm on the shorter side. He's super tall, big beard. By the time he was 14, 6 feet with a big beard. So, I mean, he looks nothing like me. But with the younger one, I was pretty strict. And sometimes, like, he would get mad at me sometimes because if I saw the little one down there twerking at one of the older ones' parties. I pull them right on up. No, no, not twerking, but dancing how they dance with those girls and shaking the booty and all that on girls. No. And so I would be like, I would pull him off. I'll never forget one time he was 12 years old and they had these girls shaking all over him. They thought it was cute, and he was only 12. And they had the grown girls shaking all over him at the parties. I
Hmm.
snatched him up so quick because again, the young people knew you can come here, but you're going to do it with a level of respect. And to me, that was not
Yeah,
cool. And he got mad,
yeah.
he was embarrassed and stuff like that. So yeah, I would, depending on what their age was, I would push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, because sometimes we have to push the envelope for them to be able to succeed, right? And but that's where
Hmm.
the momager part comes in because using our discernment, and it's not discernment based off of money or clout, like it's literally like based off of their well-being. So I think we make
Yep,
just a little more wholesome decisions when it comes to that for as a
absolutely,
momager.
absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me about this Africa thing. What is that all about? How did your sons get to DJ in Africa?
Oh, so well, our community is very very connected, to culture. I was so blessed to be raised in a very like revolutionary cultural, Pan-African community. And it's just normal for us to go home. Like when you get to a certain age or when you're young or
Uh-huh.
whenever your family says it's time, you go to Africa and figure out what country. A lot of us go to Ghana, but you can figure out what country you're from and
Mhm.
go to that country. But whatever it is, you had to go back home. And so I'm working on my fourth trip, which is really a shame. I should have
Nice.
been a lot more times. Like my mentor has been, I think, 40 times. It's crazy.
Wow.
But anyway, our one of our brothers, my good big brother that I grew up with, Diallo Sumbri, he is the president of a Dinka group, and he started
Mhm.
doing these Africa trips. So actually, he's over there right now. He started just like becoming a bridge. They call it the bridge to Africa. And Ghana is just a wonderful place to go if anyone is considering going for the first time. It's an English speaking country. You can when you go, you always see somebody because the expatriate community is so big. Like you'll get there and be like, "Dang, everybody from DC is here," So anyway, it's just so much fun, and it is actually the center of the world. It's zero longitude, zero latitude. It's right off the water, but it's
I
the
did
center of
not
the
know
world.
that.
Yeah, yeah, it's right off the coast of Accra, like kind of in the water, but technically it's in Ghana. So
Right.
our big brother
That's so
Diallo, he
cool.
started doing trips, and I told him it's time for me to send the boys. And so the oldest one, I forgot why he didn't go that particular time, but the younger one went, and I said, I'm gonna send you to your uncle, go ahead. And he went over there, he got him a gig over there, and there was radio time, and like they were just busy because Diallo was connected, and he did that show over there. And I'm just forever grateful because it's a memory that like my son will never forget. And
Forget.
actually they're going to be
Yeah.
over there again in November for the Ghana DJ Awards. So that'll be like
Mm.
really exciting. I'm excited about
Are they
that.
being nominated? Are they playing?
No, no, not being nominated because they're from the States. And I think they do have a category for international DJs, so they would be considered, international DJs over there. But they're not nominated.
Right.
One day
Right.
we're manifesting, but like this is the first time going. They're just
Yeah,
going to
that's
check it
so
out. Just
cool.
yeah, just gonna be in the audience, buy some VIP tickets and go. Like they're not being nominated or
Oh,
anything, just
nice.
attending. Hmm.
And sometimes that's what you have to do in general is like just be in the right places to get that next
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what about
Yep.
compensation? And you spoke about contracts. So how early or how young were they when you introduced them to contracts?
Good question. I think we probably did one or two gigs, and I was like, "Oh no, that's it. We got to write this up," because I do contracts all day in real estate, so it was nothing for me to pull
Right.
out, an appropriate contract for what they were doing, and have them sign it, and I would sign it, since they were under 18. But I think they were probably, I'd say maybe 14 or something like that, 14 and 19. No, it had to be younger than that because Malik was younger than that. By the time the oldest one was like 15, 16, almost everything he was doing was under contract. And we just
Right.
saw how important it was to do so because people, unfortunately, do some shady business. And I was not
Yeah.
raised to do business that way. And I did not raise my sons to do business that way. It was always about doing business with
Yeah.
integrity. But people would like
Hmm.
for other DJ families, they can understand. And other, just like what your son does with acting and other families, they may understand. But it's like you see this all the time where people say one thing and then they don't want to pay you. And
Yeah.
let me tell you what I would do. When I tell you I was wild when I was younger. So they had this one gig they were doing, and this is how we learned the hard way. We would take a deposit, and then get paid at the end of the party. Well, we found that people would like either they get drunk, they get lost, they get ghost or something, and we like, where's the person that's supposed to pay the rest of this money? So then they started getting more strict on it, where they would do a deposit, and then once they arrive, they require payment. And unfortunately,
Right.
we had to be that strict because people would be that funny. And I know they're spending money on all kind of other party stuff, but they would, act funny paying the DJ, so they would get the money in the beginning. So this one party, once we started implementing that rule and it was working, we went to this one party. We They paid their deposit, but when we got there, they were like acting real funny on who was going to pay the bill. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what you're gonna do. I said, go ahead and sit up, turn your music on so you can prove you're ready, but turn it down real, real low. So we're at the party, the music is on, and people are like, we can't hear. And we're like, we know. So we told them, when you pay these boys, then the party is gonna start jumping. So, oh, now they start scrambling around looking for somebody to pay. Like, why do I have to do that? Why don't you just do what you
Right.
said you were gonna do? Just. So anyway, as soon as they came and brought me the money, I signaled to my son that we were good, and he's pumped it up, and the party started jumping. But I mean,
Wow.
to all the mamas to all the momagers out there, like I've learned to be serious about my money from when my mom was performing, and I saw how
Yep.
she would handle the money. And actually, she was handling it through the band manager who she was working for, and the band manager was strict in terms of him getting paid. He was like, "I got all these
Mhm.
people to pay," you know. And my mom was one of his singers, and he taught her, and she taught me, and I taught them. So that's pretty much
Yeah.
how it was.
And as a momager too, as you know, as you just explained, yeah, we have to be the bulldog and the bodyguard as well, because you don't want me to call his dad or you don't want me to call
Okay,
the uncles, like you said earlier. Like, so
don't make
let's
me
handle
call
this.
them up. You know.
Let's handle this correctly.
You said, let's handle this correctly. I hear that.
Yes, exactly. That is so funny. So you basically introduced contracts and the rules of how to get paid for them early on. So they've been rolling with it since they were 14 and 15.
Yep. Early on, and they still
That's
use some of
good.
those
That's
principles
really
now.
important.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And they have a moving company too, like that they do by day, since most of their
Hmm.
party and DJ stuff is at night. And they do the moving company maybe, I don't know, 7 a.m. to like 6 or something. But they're very strict in terms of how they get paid. And so I think whatever business they do, they'll use those
Yeah.
same principles, which, I hope most, managers once we give the young people the roadmap, usually they stick with it. They stick with it if it works for them.
Hmm.
If it works for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you meet other kid DJs along the way or kid musicians along the way?
You know what? Not that many. Not that many. Like they kind of had a good share of the
Mm.
market. Not that many. Every now and again we would. Like I
Yeah.
would love to say like we partnered with this person. I would love to say that, but it never happened. Or I just wasn't around it a lot. I'm sure there were some, but we didn't run into it a whole lot. Now we kind of made that because with them being kid DJs, they were getting so busy. Like I was saying earlier, they had to start this DJ crew. And so, like within our
Hmm.
circle, there were some, but like just around, not really, not like I would have liked to see. Yeah.
Right. I know that there's some popping up now. We have a kid DJ that actually DJs our fashion shows in San Diego.
Oh,
He's
nice.
17 now, but when we met him, he was like 14. So it's so
Mm.
cool. He's there with his parents as well. And
Oh.
we like kind of like we don't talk to him, we talk to his mom. So like if we want her to turn up the music, we're like telling her, can you turn up the music?
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like when
Mm-hmm.
we speak to him, he's a little intimidated. I don't know if it's because we have all our
Oh.
glam on and we look like
Mhm.
supermodels, but he's like, why are
Yes.
you talking to me?
Hilarious. But thank God he has them.
Yeah, it's so cool to see. So did you do a lot of the negotiations and everything on their behalf? Were you like going out and finding gigs as well?
So yes, kind of. So yeah, I would definitely negotiate on their behalf because like that's one of my specialties now. I love to negotiate. My daddy taught me how to negotiate.
Okay.
I cut my first deal when I was 12 years old. I never forget it. And like that's what I do now. I negotiate for my clients, and I love that part. And so I would do that for them too. And it taught them how to be a little bit more. Everybody has a way. I have a way about getting what
Mm.
I want in negotiations because I usually win, And it's just one of my gifts. Like I just have a way. It's a very smooth, very respectful, way.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows like the hustle, like what it takes. Like it's not easy,
Mm-mm.
building someone else's career. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you had your own things that you want to do for yourself. So how did you balance taking care of your son's careers and two people's careers and the things that you wanted for yourself? Did you have a
Good
balance?
question. I don't think there was a balance. I mean, like I was saying, I put a lot into what they were doing, even to the detriment of myself. But I just felt like they're only young and that close to you such a short amount of time.
That's
Like
true.
parenting is never over. Yeah, it's never over. But their aunt told me years ago, they were like, look, when she was like, look, when you're raising children, the days are long, but the years are short. And I didn't
Mm,
really get it then, but looking back on it now, they've been out the house like almost 7 years. It's like time is flying. And I see what she's
right.
saying now, and I'm just glad I put that time in like when I did because it was so worth it. But I think the only reason why it wasn't as bad for me is because I was running their business and running mine, and it was the same hustle, just a different product. So if I,
Mm,
like I was saying, I did their Craigslist and I did mine. I would do their marketing and then I would do
mhm.
mine. I would do their follow up calls and do mine. Like I just made it one thing. And like my files on my desk, like I would make them a file. So they had their own file, and
Right.
whatever had to be done for that day, I would do that with my other clients. To me, they was just another client file. So I just kind of mixed it all together. Now,
Yeah.
if you're 9 to 5 and you can't get to the phone and you got to be, maybe at a desk, it might be a little bit more difficult. But that was the one blessing that I had, that it was just running the same kind of business, just two different products, really.
Yeah. That's a blessing
Yeah.
for sure. Where you could just like
Mm-hmm.
roll it into your day. And I think I do the same thing with all
Mm-hmm.
of my companies. People are always like, how do you do all this stuff? I just do it. Like, I don't know. It's like not really a thought. It's just like what I have to do. And like but like you, it's because I have the flexibility to work from
Mm-hmm.
home and the flexibility to manage my own schedule throughout the day that
Mm-hmm.
I can balance things and I can find acting jobs for my son and take a call for him.
That is so good. That makes a big difference because I mean, imagine if we can't if you and I were in a position where we couldn't get that phone call during the day, or if we had to
Mhm.
do this, and that, it would slow us down some. And I know some people who the
Totally.
balance is even harder because they are in those positions where they can't have their phone during the day or whatever. And so I know for them it must be even more of a struggle, but I'm sure they find a way to make it work too. But that is
Exactly.
definitely a
That's all
blessing
you
that
can do.
thank goodness both you and I have.
Oh, yes, girl. Cheers to
Mm.
that. No.
Here's to
So
that.
tell me this. What lessons have you learned along the way? Like with this entertainment business, with DJing, with being a momager, do you have any valuable lessons? It doesn't matter how many, but that stick out to you that you want to share.
Hmm. I can be kind of blunt with my words, but what's coming up in my spirit is trust no one. And I shouldn't say it that way because there's always people along the way that you can trust, but they come few and
True.
far between, what I learned in this business. And when you're protecting young people, there's more child predators out there than we think. There's more people that want to take advantage of our children than we would even imagine because we don't have wicked minds like that. But I
Right.
ran into it more than I would expect it, even with boys, with male children. If you have
Mm,
female children, if you have little girls, I'm sure you have to be even more strict, because I saw stuff as a
right.
little girl coming up in entertainment, and my mom went through stuff as a young lady coming up in entertainment when she was at Howard Fine Arts Department. So
Mm,
I would say just the trust level has to be like your discernment has to be sharp. And if you feel like something is not good for your child, do not do it. Because I'm telling you, I've had times when the boys started getting a little older, and I went. It was one gig I didn't go on with them. They literally called me when they pulled up, and they were like, "Ma, something is up with this place," and they rolled out. And thank God. I mean, I wasn't there, but thank God they listened to their spirit. But
right.
when I say trust no one, I mean I don't care if it's your friend or whoever. Use those contracts. Get your money. Get people to sign on dotted line because unfortunately people don't do business well all the time. We want to trust most people, but sometimes, and your children's time is on the line, your children's career is on the line, their money is on the line. And I just learned to do everything is strictly business, nothing personal. You don't want to sign a contract? No problem. You can find another DJ service or find another whatever service. But that would be my biggest lesson is unfortunately you got to be real strict with people and make
Yeah.
make them respect your business and take your business serious. It's crazy. I mean,
Totally.
yeah, I always try to take things from a positive perspective. Like my glass is always I don't even believe in half full. My glass is full. I don't care what's going on. It's full because I'm blessed. You know, I always have a very positive
Right.
attitude, but I just learned, especially when you're representing someone else, it's like the mama bear comes out. I'm sure it's come out of you before because it's definitely come out of me. You know, it's like, don't just, you're not going to play my kids like that. You know what I mean?
Don't get hurt.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that would be my main thing, to just run it as a business, because with the paperwork, with the business, with you signing on the dotted line, then the stress is off of me and it's on you. You know, you sign,
Yeah,
now it's your
exactly.
turn to do what you said you were going to do, because we're going to pull up. We're going to be here and we're going to be here on time and we're going to do a good job.
Exactly.
So,
For sure. So, as we're coming to wrap up our convo today, I do want to ask,
mhm.
as ever I ask everyone to do. So, if there's any advice that you want to give any other momagers of talented kids, and you've already dropped so many gems in this last 25, 30 minutes, but still, like, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think that's really important that's on your heart? Please share.
Yes, I would say be careful of limiting them, because sometimes these children's careers take off even faster than we're expecting. And we'll be like, oh, they might not be ready for this, they might not be ready for that. But as long as they're, in a comfortable environment and they're protected, let these kids fly. Like, because sometimes they have talents we don't even know, and sometimes they're performing and stuff comes out and you're like, oh my god. Or we've been around them all our life, there may be other people that see something, a little twinkle, something different, and if they they gotta go to LA for a semester and you got to pull them out of school and they need a tutor, it's okay. It's okay, but just let these kids fly. Let them go. Let them do their thing. You're going to be right there, physically right there. I know I was right there. But if they got to miss a day of school, okay, because life is the ultimate teacher. They got to miss a day of school. They got to miss a week to go do something. I was always like, you're going to be raised by school, but you're going to be raised by life too. So that would be one of my biggest things. Just don't limit them. Just let them fly. Let these children fly.